Hello, hello. Well, good afternoon. Project Management for a Regenerative Future, a dialogue between UCI and GPM Global. My name is Paula Villalta, Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Management for the Common Good at the University for International Cooperation, UCI, and I will be your moderator for today's session. This conversation brings together two outstanding global leaders in project management, sustainability, and regenerative development. As PMI and GPM Global join forces, this is a unique opportunity to explore how education and leadership in project management can drive meaningful transformation in the face of today's global challenges. So let's begin. I'm going to introduce our speakers. Our special guest, Dr. Joel Carboni, is a global leader in sustainable and regenerative project management. He is the founder of GPM Global, Green Project Management, and the creator of the P5 standard. With over 25 years of experience and work in more than 55 countries, he has collaborated with governments, academia, and industry to mainstream sustainability into professional practice. He's also a member of the Forbes Business Council and visiting professor at Schema Business School. Welcome, Mr. Carboni.
Thank you. We're happy to be here tonight.
Super. And our host, Dr. Eduard Müller, president and founder of the University for International Cooperation in Costa Rica. Since 1994, he has led UCI in developing globally recognized transdisciplinary and online programs, and is a pioneer of regenerative development in education. With a professional career spanning 5 continents and over 40 years, he leads the Regenerative Costa Rica initiative and has served as board member of many organizations such as We All, INBAR, and the Ecosystem Restoration Standard. Welcome, Dr. Müller.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and good to be here with Joel, a good friend. We've been working and trying lots of stuff over the years. Very exciting. So good to have you. Thank you for accepting the invitation, Joe.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So welcome to both of you. And thank you so much for joining us in this webinar. Many thanks as well to all the participants who are here with us today. Thank you so much, Monica, which is one of our professors in the master's degree. Thank you for being here. And for this conversation, I'll start by asking you a few questions. And at the end, we'll invite the audience to share any questions that they may have through the chat. To begin, I'd love to know how you're doing, and if you have any thoughts, if you'd like to share before we dive into the dialogue. Let's start with Mr. Carboni.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you asked me before we hopped on the broadcast here how I'm doing, and I'm in a pretty good mood. I'm actually in a very good mood. My son last night achieved his Eagle Scout, so I'm a pretty proud papa today. So we've been working several years on getting him into the environmental movement, and he's been taking off with it. So I'm really in a great mood today. So thanks.
Awesome. Mr. Müller?
I'm always in a great mood. We always have to be positive. Even if we look at the world around us, we're going into challenging times, but these are also then big opportunities. And that's what we've been focusing on for now 31 years, on how to turn challenges into opportunities. And I think we have a lot of good paths ahead of us.
So thank you so much for your insight. And let's start with the questions. So I will start with Mr. Carboni. So what first inspired you to focus on sustainability in the field of project management? How did it guide you to the creation of GPM?
Thanks. That's a fun question. Actually, I get asked this question quite a lot. I started my journey in the early 80s, or as my kids say, back in the 1900s, and then they kind of giggle. I started actually in scouting. There was a patch that I wanted, and I thought it was really cool. Actually, I still have it. Keep it here on my desk if you guys can see it. I still keep it here with me. It started actually under President Reagan and focused on conservation efforts. And if you can imagine that, a U.S. president that actually cared about the environment. Wow, right? But I went on to become an Eagle Scout and eventually a camp counselor teaching forestry, environmental science, bird and insect study, and several other topics. And interestingly, 14 years later, I was able to combine my environmental work with project management thanks to a problem in my county that I was tasked with as a project manager. And at that point, I've been a project manager for a little more than 10 years and decided it was beyond time to develop tools and methods for the both of them to kind of come together. And at that point, my PMI chapter more or less told me that was not going to work. So I decided to create my own organization, to reach out to some experts. And 16 years later, here we are. We have GPM, and we're now collaborating with people all over the world. And we've made a big impact, I think, positively, and doing a lot of good. So pretty happy.
So as a lesson learned, you don't have to give up your dreams. So thank you so much, Joel.
Absolutely.
Mr. Müller, you've been focusing on regeneration for a long time. What led you to bring this vision into education and project management at UCI?
Yeah, I go back a little bit earlier than Joel, probably. A bit more gray hair.
More hair.
UCI, we founded it to implement sustainability, and which was the interaction between environment, society, and economics. Very quickly, we added spirituality, culture, and politics and governance. And it got to a point maybe 15 years ago where just the data that was available showed us that the time for sustainability was gone. We were getting to tipping point. So we had done so much damage to the planet. I'm not talking only about climate change. I'm talking about real planetary collapse. That in order to achieve sustainability in the future, we first have to regenerate. So it is not a separate discipline. It's not a course you take additional to a program. It has to be spread throughout, and it's a different paradigm. So it's shifting to a paradigm. We call it in regeneration the third horizon, moving away from a current paradigm that's not anymore fit for purpose. And project management has been fundamental in making us do better projects. When we brought in project management to Latin America and the Caribbean, we were first university to offer a master's in project management. We started with information technology with project management using the PMBOK 1.0. And then a couple of years later, we started the project management program. And it was the first one in Latin America and the Caribbean. At that time, it wasn't even recognized as a profession. I mean, we started the first group with 5 students. We couldn't get more. Nobody recognized it as a profession, but very quickly took on and got to a point where we were opening a cohort every 5 weeks with 30 students. That's why there are so many thousand students in this program as graduates. So project management definitely is a must for anything. It's culture, it's environment, it's economics. It's not anymore just IT, which is where it started because of the standards and so on. But then I also worked with PMI at the beginning. They had a committee for environment. And we met for about 1.5 or 2 years, and it never went anywhere. I went to a meeting in Chile in the Congress, and we tried to reactivate it, and it was just not in the scope of project managers. And they had their ethics component, which they said that was enough, and it's not enough. So that's where I said, okay, we need to start focusing beyond sustainability in regeneration, in our masters in project management and all the other programs across the board. So we've been pioneering that, but actually Joel picked this whole thing up very quickly, and his book is amazing, just came out, and we're finally getting regeneration recognized, not only in project management, but all these other fields. And we just have to be careful that it doesn't turn into a fashion word and being used for greenwash. So I think that's, again, a huge responsibility of project management in general to bring the principles of regeneration, that they cannot be violated and used by greenwashers.
Okay, thank you. As I always say to my students, there should be an before and after of a project manager in a company with these competencies, right? Because we need to do the difference. So thank you so much, Mr. Müller. Just a quick comment. This event offers live interpretation in both English and Spanish. To switch languages, please activate the interpretation feature and select your preferred language. En caso de que ustedes necesiten interpretación, hay una opción de interpretación y ustedes pueden seleccionar su idioma, ya sea inglés o español. Muchas gracias. So let's continue. I'm sorry for the interruption, Mr. Carboni. GPM has helped shift the profession towards sustainability. What does regeneration mean to you, and how do you see it complementing or expanding upon the sustainability agenda?
Thanks, Paula. And before I comment, I'll mention that you mentioned PMBOK version 1. Its architect's actually on the call, so he's actually watching tonight. Bill
Okay.
is on the call, so hopefully we get it right here, Bill.
I met Bill. What?
Sorry?
I met Bill a long time ago.
Yeah, so he's actually one of our authors as well. So GPM has helped kind of shift the profession towards sustainability, and actually, thanks to Eduard's guidance over the years, he's been instrumental. To me, regeneration is about moving away from a mindset of sustaining. Sustaining what? What is it we want to sustain? Problems we have today? No thanks, right? I mean, it's a planet in a rapid decline, and if everywhere you go, you see it. And as we talk to project managers all over the world, we ask them, what is it you want to sustain? And we go to each country and we say, take a look at your local issues. And they go, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, just break the word down. Sustain, the ability to sustain. What is it? And they go, oh, I never really thought about it that way, right? I mean, we have to actively heal and restore what has been destroyed by us, right? Whether it's ecological systems, communities, or even the inner lives of leaders themselves, right? That's what my book talks about. Sustainability is foundational, but it stops at minimizing harm, and that's not enough, right? We've already done the harm. Regeneration demands that we do the real work, right? That we go further to leave things better than we found them. And as a scoutmaster, that's the core thing. Whenever you do a campsite, we say, even better than you found it. Even if it's already pristine, do something a little bit extra, right? At GPM, we're seeing this shift in our methodologies and in how we define project success. And I'm absolutely thrilled that now even PMI is adopting our language and the way we're explaining it. It's not just about deliverables and impact assessments anymore. It's about relationship, reciprocity, and resilience. Regeneration is developed in service of life, not to manage it, and most definitely not in spite of it. And this is absolutely fundamental for everyone to understand. And I was tickled. I was on a Forbes call about a month ago, and there was an individual who was managing a magazine, and she was talking about interviews she's done with various leaders around the world. And I asked a question. I said, what is your take on regeneration versus sustainability? And her eyes sparkled. She goes, thank you for asking that question. She goes, it's my hope that my children will someday take a job and go, sustainability is so yesterday. And the audience was like, what is this word you're talking about? And so finally, it's out there, right? It's out there. And I was able to get it into a couple Forbes articles, which I thought they'd push back, but they didn't. So it's getting out there in the mainstream, and it's taking hold, which is so important that everyone really understand that this is not just some far-reaching idea, or we're trying to change the narrative, or flip the word. This is the new today, right? We have to make this hold.
Thank you, Joel. So as a project managers, we need to focus not just in the products, right? The deliverables. As I mentioned before, we need to focus also the process and mitigate the harm. Thank you. Thank you for that lesson learned. And Mr. Müller, at UCI, regeneration is not just a topic, but a framework. How do you distinguish it from sustainability, and how it is integrated into the master's program?
Yeah, that's about 10 questions in one. Definitely, it is beyond sustainability. That's the first issue. As Joel mentioned, it's in service of life. So I've been in too many discussions on definitions. Academia loves to discuss definitions, and I don't think we need to spend time. My simple definition of regeneration is being in service of life and recognizing that we are part of nature. We are nature. We're not, it's not humans and nature, it's humans are nature. And if we would let nature do its job, it would make us survive if we just stop doing harm. And the proof of that is after all the warnings nature gave us, sea level rise, droughts, fires, floods, storms, we never paid attention. And then came COVID. And for me, that was the last effort that nature is doing, saying, okay, guys, here, take this. It'll put you on your knees for a couple of years. You won't be able to see it, but think on what you're doing. And in the 4 months we were locked down, nature just blew up all over the place. It just was, it's like saying, okay, you didn't pay attention, now you have an opportunity, and I'm still willing to save the planet for you guys. I'm resilient. It sparked all over. It cleaned the air quickly. Dolphins came out in the Mediterranean. The fish stocks started rising again. So there is no way now for it to be an additional topic in a program. We need to understand what creates conditions for life and what destroys conditions for life. And Joel mentioned an environmental impact assessment. I mean, when I started UCI, that was a center, but it's actually immoral. It's legal, but it's immoral because it authorizes to lessen the impact on environment and on communities. Make it less worse. And we're beyond that stage. So we've crossed dangerous tipping points. Ocean temperatures have increased over the last 2 years exponentially. We're getting to the tipping points in terms of methane release from both ocean floor as well as the permafrost. So we're now on a countdown. We're losing insect populations around the planet at 1% a year, and we have less than 20% left. When they're gone, we're gone. There's no way we can survive without insects, and we're still killing them. Costa Rica is the largest consumer of pesticides, and that is not built into any discipline, nor agriculture, nor economics. So we definitely need to make it across our understanding. I think from kids on, actually, we have a program on how to bring Mother Nature in as a teacher into schools so that kids start reconnecting with nature. The problem is we got disconnected from nature. And we got disconnected from nature, one, because of the reductionist approach, especially, Descartes separating the spiritual from the material. And then Newton saying a system is just the forces that components of the system exert against each other. I mean, that's absurd. In nature, 1 + 1 can be 20. It is not 2. So unless we are able to understand how nature works and use it in managing any effort of human endeavors and bring it in, then we have a chance, because we need to allow it to regenerate itself and try to help it whenever we can, as long as we don't keep on doing damage. But that doesn't go yet into mainstream. That does not go yet into public policy. That does not go yet into United Nations. I mean, several of the UN organizations just don't want to use the word regeneration. They're stuck to the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and they're stuck there. And if you look at them, and I was actually going to New York, especially for SDG 17, every time the session started, the moderator, convener actually, thanked Monsanto, Nestlé, Syngenta, Coca-Cola for the support. And you look at SDG 17, it's the corporate world that's going to save the planet. So we're still caught in that mess. But then regeneration has to be pushed into every single discipline, every single policy. And it's very simple if you understand that it is our life that's on stake right now. The planetary boundaries define the safe operational space for humanity to survive. It's an anthropocentric vision. And in spite of that, in spite of being out for the first time published in 2009, This has not affected UN policy, has not affected government policies. So it cannot be anymore just a discipline, additional course you take and you try to fit it in. It has to be across everything we do. We cannot keep on thinking that GDP is the outcome of an economic development process. First, it never measured development. Actually, inequality increases. We need to go and say, okay, how are we recreating conditions for life, and put a value on that if you want to put value as a decision-making process. So it hasn't been easy. The biggest problem that we face is the lack of trained people in regeneration, which was what I found when I founded the university in 1994. I couldn't find teachers, one, that were willing to work across disciplines, and two, the most complicated thing, that were willing to unlearn. And unlearning is still probably the biggest problem that we have. These universities are teaching the wrong things. Let's put poison on the food. That's really good. Let's kill the soil, to be able to produce massively with machines. So this has to be incorporated in our way of thinking, our daily processes, if we want to survive. Because we're way beyond sustainability. We're about to jump off the cliff right now. So we have very few years. Another factor is we're in exponential change, and we have not been trained to think exponentially. We're trained to think linear. So we're still talking about reducing emissions by 2050. The whole planet is focused on reducing emissions. A good friend of mine, Larry Kopal, says none of what we're seeing right now has been ever caused by future emissions. So it's absurd. We're focused on reducing CO2, and CO2 is actually the best fuel for reverting planetary collapse, because it's what fuels photosynthesis and will allow us to pull carbon from the sky and put it beneath our feet. So it's not about biology anymore. It's not about ecology anymore. That was another problem with sustainability. They put everything in separate boxes. And there shouldn't be a Ministry of Agriculture that fights a Ministry of Environment. There should only be one ministry for land, because it is a complex system. It's not divided in economic activities. So this is the biggest challenge. And I think UCI, we're the only university, or the first university that has focused on regeneration to the scale we have. And for sure, I think we're the only university that has Mother Nature sitting on our board. So before we confirm a decision, it goes through Mother Nature.
Thank you, Mr. Müller. Mr. Carboni, do you want to complement or do further comments about that?
I don't know how I possibly could.
Go ahead.
I mean, I completely agree with everything Eduard said, and I'll tell you, in our profession, it's like beating your head up against the wall sometimes, because we're so confounded by constraints. We're taught to work to constraints, and we go in and tell them, open your mind and look at the impact you're having on the world and manage to that. You consider the long-term effects. Look at the total systems life cycle effect of your work, and their heads explode. Wait a minute, I got to work to my budget and my scope, and their heads explode. And now we're finally seeing everyone start talking about their impact and understanding their impact and what that means long term. And it's changing the entire face of the project profession. Now, what that means is that you have millions of individuals out there who have the fingers on the pulse of all change. And there isn't a single profession out there that has a better ability to drive that change fast and furious like we do. That's why I think it's so important that we're putting this in their hands, and hopefully fast, because we don't have a whole lot of time. As Eduard said, we've known for 15 years, the data's been out there. And if you look at the slices over time since 2009, the effects over time in the bioregions, how they've been collapsing, we have to do something. But we need someone to stand up and say, what's the root cause of all this? It's not the shiny icons the UN puts out. It's what necessitated them in the first place, and who can go back and address those immediately. It's project managers, because we're the ones taking the direction from the corporates, from the NGOs, from everyone else, and saying, turn it into something, right? Well, we have to look at that and go, is this the right thing to do? Can we do it in a different kind of way? And have the competence to stand back and say, we have a better idea, and make it make sense to them and get their buy-in and take it in the right direction. So regeneration needs someone to hold its hand and drive it in the right direction and to speak the corporate language in a way that they'll understand it and also agree with us to make it actually happen.
Thank you so much, Joel. And definitely, I will take the phrase that, or the quote that Mr. Müller says, being of service of life. I love it. Okay, so let's start with Mr. Carboni. What is the recent joint venture between PMI and GPM about? This is one. What does it represent for the future of the profession? This is the other question. And what opportunities does it open up for practitioners? Mr. Miller says that I question a lot, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I need to take the opportunity.
No, it's fine. It's fine. This was a really interesting opportunity for us. And I'm not going to share anything that hasn't been said already because Pierre Lemon, PMI's president, shared this in a keynote in Barcelona last month. He approached me in October. We met in London, and he said, "How do you like GPM to become part of PMI?" And I said, "No." He went, what? I said, "No, we're not for sale, but we want to collaborate." So the joint venture idea, we hashed out in about 20 minutes, and then lawyers took 6 months to put it together. That's usually how it works. But what we've done is we've taken GPM's assets, our certification, our training, and a lot of our IP, and put it into the joint venture. And PMI has taken their thought leadership and their resources, put it in the joint venture, and we're going to grow it exponentially. Because as a grassroots organization, we can only do so much. And as we've been talking about for the past 30 minutes, we don't have a whole lot of time left. We need a megaphone and we need a hammer. PMI's got both those. And they've got the funding as well. And if we're going to get this into the places where we just simply can't reach, they can. So they're willing to work with us on this, and they want to do the right thing. Pierre talked about he was at a UN function, and he finished it. He was frustrated. He walked outside, and the guy asked him. He said, "Do something." He said, "You're not doing anything." And he goes, "Yeah, you're right." He said, so he called me, and that's where this all started. But to me, the joint venture, it's a signal that sustainability is no longer peripheral, right? It's no longer a topic at a conference, not tucked away in the corner as a stream, which drove me crazy 15 years ago and even more so now. It's core. Partnering with PMI, we're embedding regeneration, and they're talking about it. They're using that actual word, which just tickles me pink. And it's the principles. It's being put into the very infrastructure of global project management, which is phenomenal. It means that practitioners everywhere from NGOs to the Fortune 500s, and we're having dialogues with all of them, from everywhere from IBM to Accenture and everyone in between. They're talking about it with us, and we're having dialogues next week in Manila about this. They'll have access to tools, the training, and even the emerging regulations in the EU, what this means to all that and how we address that and what it means. But even more than that, it legitimizes the idea that project managers are systems leaders, not just order takers and task managers, because I hate that. This opens the door for career paths that prioritize purpose alongside performance. And what I'm most excited about is the ability to reach more people with the message, put tools in their hands, and inspire them. I keep telling them, don't worry about saving the planet. Just make a change in your piece of the world. And together as a profession, we can collectively solve the global challenges at the root together. To me, that's really the key, is the togetherness, because the global profession, you can walk down any street and throw a rock and hit a project manager in the head. All of us together, we can solve a massive problem if we all work together, take one step forward as a collective. Me alone, I can only do so much. We need everybody. It's going to take everybody to solve these problems.
Awesome, thank you. So I have gathered a lot of quotes and phrases and lessons learned from you, and thank you so much, because one of them is make a change, and your little piece of work. I love it. Sometimes we need we think that we have to do bigger changes, but we need to think in our space and prioritize purpose, as you mentioned. Same. Thank you. And the next question is for Mr. Müller. How does this alliance reinforce the relevance and strength of UCI's master's program, which is already accredited by GAC PMI and aligned with GPM principles?
I'm looking forward to a lot more collaboration with Joe. Yeah, we should have kept on tightly together, working together over the years. We've been in and out of sitting down and discussing projects and things like that. But now is the moment. We are evolving in projects on the ground in regeneration at government level. So in governance issues, in cultural issues, in regenerative tourism, regenerative agriculture, regeneration of biodiversity. So we have the technical input for project managers to actually have a source of information. What does it mean in practice that you are actually regenerating at a landscape level? Oh, yeah, we're increasing biodiversity. How are you measuring it? You know, how do you measure increases in biodiversity? Okay, we have a whole team working for now close to 4 years. We capture bats, we look at butterflies and other pollinators, birds, and we're trying to establish indexes that we can actually say, okay, this is the baseline. This is where we're starting. And now every year we have to increase 5 or 10% on populations or diversity of species. And it's difficult to work because a lot of the science is on one species or on a very small interaction. It's not on the landscape level. But now we have to think we have one landscape and one seascape. So land and sea covers the whole planet. This is a scale that we have to get to. So we, with our other programs, are providing fundamental let's say, measuring points and guiding points that will help project managers be able to answer with implementing regeneration in their projects. So what does it mean to actually have a regenerative building project? It's not anymore, you know, buying cement from a close by industry and then you get a lot of points because it wasn't transported far enough. No, it's actually, how does that building or a building complex benefit nature and benefit people and benefit the economy? But you have to put those two things in, and that changes a lot of these certification things, which are just BS. You know, use styrofoam, it's light, so you can take out points, but because you're not transporting heavy cement. Yeah, but styrofoam is a product that doesn't even disintegrate and it's contaminating and so on. So it's going beyond sustainability and having the data and the information and the experience and the projects to show what it means. So we need regenerative governance. When I say that, we need regenerative politics. The politics we're seeing around the world, in my country, in the US, in Europe, is all degenerative. So we cannot ignore not working with governance and politics. We need younger people that are not egotistic, hopefully a lot of young women, because they are multitasking, they're empathetic, they have other values, to actually change things around. So project management even has to even look at governance issues. How do we organize? For me, the future of our planet will depend on bioregions and local governance. And it will bring together producers and service providers with consumers at a local level, because the logistic chains, we saw it in COVID, they are not resilient. And the way it's set up is not resilient. So we will need to guarantee food, we will need to guarantee water, we will need to guarantee education, happiness, well-being, health, and all these things. And the system, the way it's set up, will not guarantee that. So that is, for me, UCI's role in having the first project management master's program in the region, in Latin America and the Caribbean for so many years, and already 3 times accredited with the GAC, and twice, I think we were Partners of the Year for GPM, which is a big honor. Bringing even the collaboration even closer, so we can actually put on the table all of this experience that we've had. We're working on 30,000 hectares of cattle with carbon money to bring biodiversity back and capture carbon. We have all these huge initiatives around the planet, cooperating with the donut economics, with John Fullerton and regenerative economics, with all these other organizations where we're in a tight group already, because we've been working on regeneration already for 15 years plus. So we can also serve as a channel to link to all these initiatives. And we're launching the the Mycelium Learning Network, which will allow anybody around the world to set up courses in regeneration, have students from around the world take them and link them to bioregions. So we have a whole network of bioregions with John D. Liu and his 86 restoration communities, with the biosphere reserves, with the Regenerative Communities Network, which he launched with John Fullerton about 7 years ago. So linking these bioregions that are doing regeneration projects will also allow people that want to learn regeneration and do projects in regeneration be able to have the menu right in front on the screen and say, oh, I want to do regeneration and I'd like to do it in regenerative tourism. Who is working regenerative tourism? You can, oh, this person in Brazil, this person in Costa Rica, this person there. And you can actually then set up large-scale projects around the world at these bioregions through these networks. And I think we need to network the networks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Müller. Mr. Carboni, what do you foresee to make stronger our alliance?
Well, as Edward said, we've been working together. I think UCI is actually our oldest university partner that we still maintain a good relationship with. And I think, I can't tell you how many people have gone through the program that we've worked on together between when we started and what we have now. But I think through the collaboration with PMI and through the GAC and what we're trying to build going forward, I think it's really important that what UCI has and the infrastructure you have and the frameworks that you have needs to be replicated all over the world. For the universities that are trying to find their way, that don't know what they're doing, and as we start talking about these concepts to other places, they're going to go, but what are you talking about? We need to be able to point to UCI and go, look what they have. Because it's not enough that it's in Costa Rica. We need to put it in Kazakhstan. We need to put it in India. We need to put it in wherever it's not, because we're running out of time. So we need to regenerate everywhere. And so we need to be able to point to places that say, they're figuring it out. Let's shine a spotlight on them and share this message, because it has to get everywhere fast. I think that's what this partnership means, is that we have the connection with PMI. We have what we have. We have what UCI has. There's something there, right? And these partnerships are absolutely incredible. I think I'm not a big fan of the SDGs, but I think the partnership for the goals, the idea behind it is something like this, right? You take the ones that have these roles to play and put them in the right spots so they can function in those roles. And this is kind of, I think, what it needs to happen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carboni. Just a quick clarification about GAC. GAC is the Global Accreditation Center of PMI. So our master's program is accredited. So it means that we follow the principles and the lessons learned and the guidelines from PMI. That is when we talk about PMI guidelines and GAC accreditation. Just a quick clarification. And Mr. Carboni, from your point of view, what key competencies must be developed today in project managers to be effective agents of change?
Yes. So it's funny that you use that word, agents of change, because when I first started on this journey, I was actually dragged out in the newspapers in my hometown for not being an agent of change. So if Beth Morley's out there somewhere from a CA of Chicago, ha 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 to you. Anyway, so we actually produced a competence standard last year. It's the first competence standard in the world for threshold competencies you could use to assess individuals for project management. And we're really proud of it. But these 4 are not in there. So I think Bill's on the call, Monica on the call, they're going to go, wait, what are you talking about when you hear these? But I think that there are 4 competencies that really stand out to me that I've been kind of putting in my brain recently. And I think they kind of redefine what it means to lead projects in this time of transformation. And I think when we do our next update, these should kind of go in there, but that's for another time. But first, I mean, systems thinking is in there. We talk about this a lot, but project managers need to see beyond linear cause and effect. Every decision made in a project, whether it's resource allocation, procurement, or timeline management, has ripple effects that extend across ecosystems, communities, and economies. Developing the ability to see those interdependencies and patterns is absolutely essential. Projects don't happen in silos, they happen in living systems. So there's one. Second is relational intelligence. And I think at its core, project management is people work. How we show up, our ability to build trust, navigate complexity, and engage across cultures has a direct influence on the outcomes of our projects. Relational intelligence is about practicing empathy and deep listening and recognizing that leadership is relational, not positional. Third is regenerative literacy. This isn't just about memorizing sustainability frameworks or quoting the stinking SDGs. It's about internalizing principles like reciprocity, interconnection, and long-term value. Regenerative literacy invites us to shift the question from how can we minimize harm to how can we actively restore what's been diminished. It's a different kind of ambition, one that's rooted in care, not just compliance. And I think fourth, and perhaps most foundational, is inner capacity. So as I explored in my new book, Becoming Regenerative, the ability to lead change starts with our own self-awareness and resilience. We can't regenerate systems if we're running on empty. And I've done it myself. I've run on empty for a lot of years, and it's hard. But leadership today requires presence, reflection, and the courage to slow down when we have to pause, to listen, and respond with intention. And I'll add one more: living system stewardship. This is a shift in worldview, and we talked about this a little bit tonight. From managing the environment as something out there to recognizing that we are nature, as Eduard said. Projects have traditionally been framed around a extractive or mechanistic lens, but stewardship means engaging with the living world as kin, not as a resource. When we make that shift, the way that we design, deliver, and measure success transforms completely. These competencies aren't just nice to haves, they're the new essentials for leading projects that are not just successful, but also life-affirming and life-giving.
Excellent. Well said.
I hope everybody took notes about it. And you mentioned that this will be for another dialogue, so I will take that, and we are going to invite you for another webinar to talk about it, because I think that is a topic for a whole webinar. So thank you so much.
Happy to.
Okay. And Mr. Müller, what about you? What do you think about the competencies for the project managers of future, or the current ones, actually?
I think what Joel just said, I can't beat that.
Come on, Eduard.
One thing that a couple of things I would like to add. I would like to emphasize the fact that we need to understand that nature does not need us. We need nature. And it has the power to let us keep on living on the planet or to kick us out of the planet. And the planet will survive, and so on, blah, blah, blah. But it isn't cosmetic. It's a real paradigm shift. So people in project management and in any activity today, and if we bring in artificial intelligence and what it's going to do to the labor market and flip it completely upside down by doing stuff a lot better and a lot quicker and a lot more efficient than humans, we're going to have a lot of humans that won't know what to do. So understanding that if we go back and reconnect with nature and start living more in that symbiosis with nature, we can actually do a lot for our own lives. And that is not regularly found in a competency framework for an academic program. The other thing I would add is we need to work very hard on the consciousness, and I hate to use the word as isolated because it's that real connection with something that's bigger than us. So we're talking about Mother Nature being huge. And we need to be really deeply conscious of the role we're playing, the damage we've done, and understand and perceive and be able to listen to nature, even if it sounds fluffy. That's the term I've been getting back from project managers. Oh, that's too fluffy. No, it's not fluffy. We need to go to that superior consciousness. And that is also not in any academic program as a standard competency. And when I started working on changing sustainability back in 1996 and added spirituality, culture, and governance, politics, as the six-prong approach to sustainability, moving away from the reductionist process of environment, society, and economics only. And at that time, I used to go to these meetings of presidents and other universities. I still thought they played a role. And whenever when they asked me, what is your focus? And I mentioned spirituality, they immediately put it into the religion department. And it has nothing to do with religion. Or they just laugh. And I remember the provost of Oklahoma State University were sitting on a table with Condoleezza Rice on that same table right after he left government. It was a fun dinner. And the provost asked me, yeah, what do you mean spirituality? Religion? I said, no, it's not religion. How do you teach it? He said, you cannot teach it. Well, how do you measure it? You have an exam. I said, you cannot do an exam for spirituality. It has to be built in the process. And he said, then what the heck? That was his answer. And I was there to sign an agreement. We were going to do a joint bachelor's in agriculture. I got up the next morning early and got a ride to the airport and left without signing the agreement. I said, I'm wasting my time here. So understanding that spirituality is not a fluffy thing, that the real connection with the world, with nature, with Mother Nature, if you want to call her like that, is higher consciousness. And this is being taken away from kids as creativity has been taken away from kids since kindergarten, because society wants them standard, and the educational process was developed to train people for the industry. That was what it was. So our system is not set up for creativity, which is another competence I would add, thinking outside the box, being able to look forward. Whenever we do community development projects, we need to bring in kids that are 8 to 14 years old, because when we ask them for their vision, they actually can still dream, whereas adults cannot dream anymore. They'll put a list of stuff which are the current challenges solved. So how to deal with this sixth dimension, if you want to call it, a spiritual consciousness, deep empathy with everything around us, with life as such, is a competence that is harder to frame, it's harder to teach, but is a must if we want to change the paradigm.
Thank you, Mr. Müller. I think you already covered it, but just maybe a quick recap. How is UCI reshaping education to make project management a driver of systemic change, not just a tool for efficiency?
Yeah. One of the things we've been looking at, and we've been very successful with our master's programs, project management program is still one of the best around, and actually still probably the first one that really brings regeneration beyond just a short mention. But it's not enough, because we need more people trained. We need hundreds of thousands of people that can actually work in regeneration. So this is why we have been working on the mycelium learning network. Another thing that we're seeing more and more with younger students is they don't want to go to a standard curriculum that has been written down on paper for 10 years. They want to choose their own learning pathways at their own rate. They want to be nomads. They want to be in different places. They don't care to be in a classroom. They do want contact, so we need events. So what we're building now is a system where students can choose their learning pathway. They can design their own trajectory. It won't be recorded in a piece of paper hanging on the wall at the end of the 6 years. It will be a living blockchain passport that will register projects, networks, contacts, knowledge areas. And a student will be able to design his or her own learning pathway and connect to bioregions, connect to experts, connect to people on the ground, so we can have the best teachers. Any teacher that wants to work in regeneration can load up a course. Of course, we have to guide it for quality and all that online experience. We have over 25 years experience in online education. But then what we paid immediately, right away. So I have staff around the world which are not on my payroll. And that will allow us to actually increase the amount of people that we need. We need hundreds of thousands of regenerators right now. And the only way to do that is not with a 4-year bachelor's program and then a 2-year master's program. We don't have time for that. And especially with all the challenges and all the changes we're going to see over the next 2 or 3 years, I don't know how many universities actually will be still relevant with their programs. Which even medicine. I mean, AI does medicine a lot better than many of the doctors that have been studying for 15 years. So we'll see dramatic changes, and that still hasn't woken up many universities. So UCI has been dealing with these things for years now, and we're just looking at different ways. I remember I remember last year a teacher of a public university, which I know, posted, "Oh, I flunked a whole group of master's students because they used AI to answer the test, you know." And I told him, "I think it's time for you to retire." You know, we cannot stop this. We need to, use these tools. And that changes the mindset. It's a different paradigm. We don't have to memorize stuff anymore. So I think we're going to see some very exciting times, and that's where I see that working closer with GPM, with PMI, with all our other networks is the only way out. We cannot compete anymore. We need to collaborate, which I would add as another competence. We've been taught to compete ever since we're in kindergarten. Who gets the best grade? Who's the best soccer player? No, we need collaboration more than competition. So I don't think competition is as healthy as the MBA programs say they are. So we really need to redefine education short term. It has to be practical, it has to be applied. Young people want results. They don't want to sit and learn, memorize all this stuff. So it will be an interesting way forward, working together with, GPM's courses and program and standards and everything are just out of the box too. So these are where the potential comes together to real collaboration and accelerate the change that we need, the massive change that we need across the planet. It cannot be only a few countries. It has to be across the planet, and actually offering people an alternative. So Bucky Fuller said, let's not fight the system, let's build a better one that will make the old one obsolete. Right now, the old one is falling obsolete on its own. It's committing kamikaze. It's a collective suicide, what we're seeing, and it's failing. So we need to give an alternative where people can hang on to. And that alternative is hope and guidance that we are still on time to rebuild the conditions for life on our planet, including our own. And that's the focus of UCI over the next few years. Just accelerating the opportunity to co-create a future of abundance, not scarcity, a future of collaboration, a future for life, our life included.
Thank you so much, Mr. Müller. And well, thank you so much both for sharing your knowledge. It has been truly amazing. So thank you so much. Now, we are now opening it for the audience questions. So feel free to drop yours in the chat. I think we have a couple of them. Let me see. In the Q&A questions is, can you share how project management and international supply chain management are related and the biggest challenges today in terms of adaptation and mitigation? I don't know if Mr. Carboni, you want to answer that one?
Yeah, say that one more time.
Yeah, it's pretty long. Can you share how project management and international supply chain management are related in the biggest challenges today in terms of adaptation and mitigation?
So I'll bring it back to the topic that we're talking about tonight in that context, right? So a lot of project managers, when we talk to them about sustainability or regeneration within their role, they say, well, it's not my job, right? Procurement, supply chains, it's someone else's job. We ask them, have you looked at your supply chain? Do you know where does this come from? The thing you're building, the raw materials, where does it come from? They go, oh, it's not my job. Well, are you pushing back on that? Are you asking the questions? And I'll give you a good example. Suppliers, vendors, anyone you're working with, it's your responsibility to understand everything about them. Unfortunately, that is your job, right? And we're working with an organization just a year ago, and we're out doing an assessment on them, and we asked them, just one example, it's in our P5 standard, is child labor. We said, do you have a problem with child labor? They said, of course not. It's illegal. Can't do anything like that. We have a policy for that. Here it is. Okay, show me your policy. Oh, very nice. Oh, yeah. Across the hall, one of my colleagues was assessing a project, and he goes, any problem with child labor? He goes, you know what? Absolutely. We had a vendor for a 13-year-old on a heavy lifting site. And he goes, really? What'd you do? We told him to go home. So he walked across the hallway to me, and he goes, guess what I just learned? So I turned around to the client, and I said, guess what we just learned? Your policy isn't worth anything if you don't actually enforce it, don't audit against it. So you can have all the greatest policies in the world, but if you're not doing anything about it, now you could extend that policy on child labor to anything, right? Where do you get anything from? Where does your sourcing materials from? Do people are they making a living wage? Anything. Project managers have the responsibility to ask the tough questions. Don't just say it's not my job. So in terms of global supply chains, the bigger picture, the millions of projects going on right now, they're all interconnected. We all share a finite resource pool. We have to be asking the tough questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carboni. Stop saying it's not my job. Tough question. Okay.
It is your job.
Exactly. Next question, we have a couple of them in the chat. The other one is from Stefan. It says, could you let us under the hood a little bit in the sense of what are the main principles and tools, processes that differentiate GPM, or let's say regenerative PM, from conventional PM? I don't know who wants to answer that one, Mr. Müller or Mr. Carboni.
Carboni.
Sure. Well, so I'll try to be brief because I can talk about this for days. I was taught early on as a project manager to be confined within these walls of initiation to close. I don't like those walls. I believe that we should look at the idea to the end of useful life and beyond, and look at it more cyclical. And so when we show these diagrams, people webinars and conferences, their heads explode, because projects lead to other projects, and they also lead to change. And the way we look at it is, what is the impact of your work, and are you managing to that? So I would encourage you, go to our website, gpm.org/P5. The standard pops up right up there. You can read it. You don't even have to download it. It's right there for you. And you can look at the ontology we have. We have 49 elements. And we look at it from the product perspective, the servicing of the product, but also the process perspective. We want to look at how efficient, effective, and how fair it is. Those 5 lenses give visibility into the social, environmental, and economic aspects that we try to dive into on an element perspective. but it gives you complete visibility and also nowhere to hide. So it is a very regenerative aspect of, or a regenerative approach to project management, not just task management, but taking full responsibility for everything. It's also it's daunting, but also it gives you complete autonomy of your projects. It's very, very empowering.
Awesome. Thank you. And the other one question that we have from Jose, it says, how can we get politicians involved and to compromise with your regeneration? Governments come and go, and every 4 years priorities change. So how can we make regeneration and continue a goal in spite of the fact? And so answer that. Mr. Müller.
I know you got a thought, Edward.
Oh, God.
Can you repeat it? I'll try to understand the question a second. Repeat it, please.
Yeah. How can we get politicians involved and to compromise with regeneration?
Okay. My experience until now is in spite of government. And there are two reasons for this. I spent 40 years of my life talking to presidents, congresses. I mean, I sat down for lunch with Evo Morales and Lula. What more can you ask for? And I never managed to make a change at that level. The same thing with the UN system. Lots of meetings, lots of people, lots of hours, lots of carbon footprints going to these meetings. And nothing really has changed in the 33 years since the Rio Convention, when the Rio meeting, when the conventions were established. So I know that it could be important to keep on working with politicians. I just personally don't really like it anymore. And I don't see the impact visible enough to justify my time there. So I rather be offering opportunities to demonstrate that regeneration can happen. We do work with municipalities, so local government is a lot more keen because they're tied to the territory. So anything based on territory, anything based on bioregions is a lot more promising than central governments. And so we've been working with municipalities. We got the city very close to where I live now in Guanacaste in Costa Rica, Nicoya. We worked with the municipality, with the mayor, especially for 2 years, and we got them to be more effective on charging their taxes. And we got a fresh revenue of $600,000 per year, which they were not getting because they were not charging the taxes correctly. And we got a written agreement that 40% of that fresh money, and the municipality always wants money, but 40% of that fresh money was going into regenerative projects presented by communities. So they understood what regeneration was, and they're actually implementing it. And the first thing the mayor did was close out the park. At least one of the roads he managed to close and make it a walkway. And he wanted to turn one of the avenues into a biological corridor for the communities that are the poorer communities that are farther outside the town, be able to walk into the center where everybody comes and meets on Sundays and Saturdays in the afternoons. So the focus on life, both in terms of biodiversity as well as elder people, young people, basically the whole population, that is regeneration. And they did it with fresh money, so they didn't have to depend on central government. And they're still doing it. So I'd rather work with local governance, local politicians, and not with the top governing structures, which have other interests. I mean, in Costa Rica, they're allowing the cutting of trees in protected areas to build tourist developments. And the Minister of Environment is involved, the president is involved. It's actually one of his neighbors that did the biggest destruction in a protected area. They took away the financing for the park systems and the environmental ministry, so they cannot actually go and inspect all this destruction. We are just seeing huge hotel chains which have been invited, and nobody is inspecting. They're destroying forest to build these whole huge, which is already a gentrification process. So I really don't have the guts to focus on government. And I don't think they have the understanding to discuss more about anything else, and that's just short-term business and the focus on reducing carbon emissions, which turns out to be a complete, something cosmetic at the moment, according to the priorities of regeneration. So I'm not sure if I answered in a happy way. Maybe I'm biased, but I spent 30 years talking to these people. And I don't think I'd have the guts to sit down with our current president in Costa Rica to even listen to him. I've never heard his whole speech. It's like sitting down and listening to Trump. There's no way you can actually go through for more than 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and they say, no, I cannot listen to this. So yeah, we just have to keep on offering opportunities for civil society to make the changes, schools, universities, people on the ground to start making the difference and offering them alternatives.
Okay, we have a couple of questions, but I don't know if we can try to answer them in a short way, let's say, because they are really good actually. So, Mr. Carboni, I think this one you can answer. It says, how can project leaders practically integrate principles of sustainability and regeneration into their everyday decision making?
Sure. Before I answer that, I want to add on to what Eduard just said. We need you to run. Whoever asked the question, we need people who care about regeneration to take over politics. Full stop. People who get it, teachers, scientists, civil service, take it over. Run the government. Because if you understand it and you care about it, take the mic. So I'll end with that. So regarding project management, practically speaking, I think I'm going to go on for days, but it starts with expanding how we define success in a project, right? It's not just about hitting scope, schedule, and budget. I call it Grandpa's project management. It's about asking how our decisions impact people, the planet, and long-term prosperity for all of us for life, right? Tools like our P5 standard, our impact assessments, they help structure that kind of thinking. But day to day, it means things like choosing vendors based on ethical practices, designing for low waste, making space in planning sessions to talk about social and environmental causes and what that means to your project and how your project affects that, and long-term thinking. Regeneration means not doing less harm, as we talked about tonight, but we're actively restoring. It's a mindset shift. It becomes habit when baked into the team culture and decision making. So we have to be discussing this at the very beginning. And a lot of people ask, where do I start? Just start. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert overnight. Just start, and it'll slowly start to build. That's my suggestion.
Awesome. And the last one, is many project management decisions are driven by global consumption patterns and cost-cutting measures, often at the expense of the environment. How can we incorporate regenerative practices while remaining financially and economically mindful in an age of inflation? Who wants to answer that?
I'll go ahead with first bite at it. We had a problem with organic because it wasn't a good focus, and usually the soil that was destroyed took about 6 or 7 years to recover some life. And so anybody moving into organic lost money initially, in theory. So most of organic farmers don't even have the accounting to know how much they're actually their production costs are. But that is not the case with regeneration. So in terms of agriculture, for example, productivity is a lot higher, nutrient density is a lot higher, costs are a lot lower. So we've convinced farmers, because they're not paying 40% of their income to petrochemical companies, that stays at home. And before, they had a reduction in production. Now they're producing more than with the chemicals. So it is good business to do regeneration. It is good business, especially if you look at it holistically, because you have all these additional benefits. So in projects based on land, we're not only increasing production, but we're regenerating the small water cycle. So we're going to reduce the risk for droughts and the impacts of climate change. We're avoiding and regenerating soil instead of putting 200 tons per hectare per year into the ocean. We're actually bringing better climate conditions with cooling through the biological corridors. You don't choose the barren agricultural. That alone is also an added value. So if you bring the holistic view and you sum everything, the end sum that have said, yeah, what do I get out of it? Regeneration doesn't make money. And I just ask them a simple question. Isn't creating conditions for life for your kids worth anything? Can't you add a sum of your billion-dollar income to the future life of your kids and your grandchildren? Can you put a value on that? And that alone is probably more valuable than any money you can make out of this project, because you're really allowing your kids to have a life and a decent life, which they don't have right now. So we need to look at the whole picture. All these side benefits, when you put them together, it's huge, and it will be well-being. So as Bob Marley said, a lot of these rich people are so poor because all what they have is money.
Well said.
Thank you. Mr. Carboni, you want to add anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you ever got it right hit the nail on the head.
It's okay. It's okay. So we have some questions in the chat, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So we are going to gather the questions and we are going to respond them by written. Okay. So as we come to close, we'll love to hear any final reflections or thoughts you'd like to share. I will start with Mr. Carboni, please.
Sure. So I'll share two things. Urgent action. So one, stop treating the planet and people as variables to manage. We talked about that today. Start recognizing them as relationships to honor. Every project we touch is either deepening life or draining it. There's no other way about it. The urgent action is to reclaim our role as stewards, not just of outcomes, but of possibility. This means redesigning our work so that regeneration is the feature, but the foundation. And I'll share a hopeful message. So I think the systems that we live in are built by people, so they can be changed by people. You don't need permission to start. So we talked, I was asked, what do we do? You don't need anyone's permission to do the right thing, right? You are the system. You carry within you the intelligence, the integrity, and the imagination to create something radically better. The future is not waiting for a plan. It's waiting for your courage. We need you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Müller.
Well, yeah. I've had a long career, many different careers along the years, and I don't think I have ever been so optimistic as now in this real horrible time in the history of humanity. And the reason for that is once you start going into regeneration, it's a pleasure. It's not work. It's life. It's living life. You feel good. You feel replenished. You feel energetic. Even if you're tired of doing work, it just fills all these opportunities. Life is so beautiful. Nature is so beautiful. We just lost the ability to see it, and we lost the ability to connect to it. And this has been done on purpose to be able to manage people. I mean, what's happening in the US, what's happening here, the destruction of institutionalities, destruction of the justice, loss of democracy. It's on purpose. It's easier to manage a group of sheep that are docile and are not critic and are not understanding. So we have a huge opportunity, and we're not talking about rocket science. We don't need to memorize logarithms to understand how nature works and how we fit in nature. It comes to us. So it's like if our historic DNA is waking up every day to that surrounding of nature. And what I recommend is people get out there. You know, when I was a kid, we went out with boiled eggs and a little basket and some tires to be able to go down the rivers. That was our Sunday thing. Now kids are stuck in malls or looking at screens. And that is alienating. That just makes them lose the hope on a future. So really, let's start going back to nature, and nature can be the park. It can be the backyard. It doesn't have to be going to a national park. It can be the corner where there's some green space and start enjoying. Turn your garden instead of mowing them down to perfection. Let them grow the wild flowers and you'll see the butterflies come in. We started when we moved to San Jose a few years ago. We didn't have anything in the garden. And when we left 3 years later, we had over 40 species of butterflies coming in every day in abundance, hummingbirds. So no matter where you are, you can actually create conditions for life. The mayor of Sweet City, he started out by making a garden for his hummingbird, and then now he has bees and everything. And he started developing the city according to the eyes of a pollinator. So we have all these possibilities of creating all this beauty and happiness and wealth and diversity around us, that it's natural. So just go ahead and do it. As Joel says, let's not worry about having everything perfect. We just have to start walking, start going.
Thank you so much, both. So let's finish this with this quote, I think. We need you for planet regeneration and being of service of life. So thank you so much, both, for joining us today. And thank you so much for all the audience. If you are interested in learning more about the master's program at UCI, which we are really proud because it integrates GPM principles, PMI standards, and a regenerative development framework, please don't hesitate to contact us. And a note, a recording of this session will be available soon. So until next time, thank you so much all. Bye-bye.